The text arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and Marcus Delgado almost deleted it without reading. Welcome to redemption in the shadows, where the most dangerous men discover that true strength isn't found in fear. It's found in the courage to protect those who can't protect themselves. If you believe even broken people deserve a second chance, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button to support stories that make you feel something real. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Now, let's see how one desperate text message shattered the walls around a man who thought he'd buried his heart 20 years ago. The phone buzzed against the mahogany desk in Marcus's office on the 3rd floor of Lombardi's, the legitimate front, an upscale Italian restaurant in River North, where the city's power brokers came to make deals they'd never put in writing. He glanced at the screen, saw the unfamiliar number, saw the first line. Please, he's going to hurt me again. I need help. Marcus's thumb hovered over the delete button. Chicago was full of people who needed help. That wasn't his problem. His problem was the shipment arriving at the port of Chicago in 6 hours, the one that needed to vanish into 3 different warehouses before sunrise. His problem was the conversation he'd just finished with Vincent Lombardi, the boss who'd raised him from soldier to underboss in 12 years, who expected results without excuses. He deleted the message. The phone buzzed again. 11:53 p.m. Address: 1847 South Halsted. Please, sir. Attached was a photo, blurry and tilted like it had been taken by shaking hands. A child's arm, small and pale against a faded bedsheet, marked by a bruise that bloomed purple-black in the shape of adult fingers. Marcus stared at the image for 3 seconds. Then he set the phone face down on the desk and returned to the shipping manifest spread before him, numbers and routes that needed his signature, his approval, his mind. The phone stayed silent for 17 minutes. Then, "My mom's bleeding." Marcus's jaw tightened. He didn't pick up the phone. "Please, senor." The typo was somehow worse than if it had been spelled correctly. A child's fingers on a keyboard, typing fast, typing scared. He came back. Marcus's hand moved before his brain caught up. He grabbed the phone, pulled up the message thread. 4 texts total now, each one a punch to a place he'd thought was scare, tissue, healed over, dead. But apparently some wounds never stopped bleeding. They just bled quietly, in the dark, where no one could see. He typed, "Call 911. The response came in seconds. "Mommy says police don't help us anymore." Marcus closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his eyelids, he saw Sophia's face. 12 years old, dark curls stuck to her tear-streaked cheeks, calling his name while their father's fists kept falling. 15-year-old Marcus had been too small, too weak, too late. He'd tried to pull the old man off her, got thrown across the kitchen, hit his head on the cabinet. By the time he woke up, Sophia wasn't breathing. 20 years ago, another city, another life. He'd buried that boy along with his sister. The phone buzzed again. "He's breaking the door." Marcus stood. The chair scraped against hardwood, too loud in the silent office. He pulled his jacket from the back of the chair, checked the gun holstered at his ribs. A 9mm Beretta he'd carried for 8 years, never once fired in anger, only in necessity. Control was everything. Emotion was weakness. Violence was a tool, not a release. But his hands weren't steady as he typed, "Stay where you are, I'm coming." He didn't know why he sent it. Didn't know why he was walking out of his office, past the dining room where the last table of customers lingered over espresso, out into the thick July heat that pressed against Chicago like a fever. The city smelled like hot asphalt, and the lake, a humid weight that stuck to skin and lungs. Marcus's car was parked in the private lot behind the restaurant, a black Audi A8, bulletproof windows, engine modified for speed. He slid behind the wheel, typed the address into the GPS. South Halsted, Bridgeport. 23 minutes at this hour. Less if he ignored traffic laws. He ignored them. The phone buzzed twice more during the drive. He didn't look. Couldn't. If he looked and saw that the messages had stopped, he didn't know what that would mean, and he didn't want to find out. The building at 1847 South Halsted was a 3-story walk-up, brick facade tagged with graffiti, windows dark except for one on the second floor, where light leaked around the edges of a pulled shade. Marcus parked across the street, killed the engine. From here he could hear it. Raised voices, male and slurred, the crash of something heavy hitting a wall. He checked his phone. The last message had come 4 minutes ago. Bathroom. We locked the door. Marcus got out of the car. The heat hadn't broken even at 12:40 a.m. It radiated up from the sidewalk, turned the air into something solid and suffocating. He crossed the street, tried the building's front door. Unlocked. Inside, the stairwell smelled like mildew and old cigarettes, the kind of smell that got into walls and never left. Second floor, apartment 2C. The door was closed but not locked. It hung crooked on its hinges like someone had kicked it recently. Marcus pushed it open with 2 fingers, slipped inside. The living room had been destroyed. Couch overturned, coffee table shattered, picture frames smashed against the wall with glass scattered across the worn carpet. A man stood in the center of the wreckage, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a police uniform with the shirt untucked, badge still clipped to his belt. He was pounding on a door at the end of a short hallway, shouting, "Rachel, open this goddamn door right now." The man's voice was whiskey rough, rage thick. Marcus recognized the sound. Had heard it before in another apartment, another lifetime. "You can't hide from me. She's my daughter. You hear me? Mine." Marcus stepped over the broken coffee table. His footsteps were silent on the carpet, years of practice moving through spaces where noise meant death. He stopped 3 feet behind the man, close enough to smell the alcohol sweating through his skin. "Step away from the door." The man spun. Up close, Marcus could see the details. Bloodshot eyes, jaw, clenched, fists already bruised. The nameplate above his badge read, "Coleman." "Who the hell are you?" Coleman's hand moved toward his service weapon. Marcus moved faster. He grabbed Coleman's wrist, twisted, used the man's own momentum to slam him face first against the hallway wall. The gun clattered to the floor. Marcus kicked it away, pressed his forearm against the back of Coleman's neck, applied just enough pressure to make breathing difficult, but not impossible. "I said step away." Marcus's voice was quiet, controlled. "You've got 2 choices. Walk out now, or I make sure you don't walk anywhere for 6 months. Decide fast." Coleman struggled, tried to throw his weight backward. Marcus adjusted his grip, increased the pressure. Coleman gasped, stopped moving. "You don't know who you're messing with," Coleman wheezed. "I'm CPD. I'll have your ass arrested. You're drunk. You're off duty. You just broke into your ex-wife's apartment and terrorized your child." Marcus leaned closer, voice dropping to something cold and final. "Walk away now, and maybe I don't make a phone call that ends your career by sunrise." For 5 seconds, Coleman considered his options. Then his body went slack, defeated. Marcus released him, stepped back. Coleman stumbled toward the door, grabbing his gun from where it had fallen, not looking back. "This isn't over," he muttered, and then he was gone. Footsteps heavy on the stairs. Marcus stood in the silent apartment, breathing steady despite the adrenaline still singing through his veins. He approached the bathroom door, knocked twice, soft, controlled. "He's gone. It's safe now." Silence. Then, the scrape of a lock turning. The door opened 6 inches. In the gap, Marcus saw her. Rachel Torres had the kind of face that had learned not to trust kindness. She stood in the bathroom doorway with one arm braced against the frame, the other wrapped around a little girl who pressed against her mother's side like she was trying to disappear. Into her. Rachel's dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, strands stuck to her temples with sweat. Her white work shirt, the kind with a name tag clipped above the pocket, had a tear at the collar and spots of blood near the sleeve. Not a lot of blood. Just enough to tell a story Marcus had heard before. Her eyes were green and sharp, scanning him from head to toe in 2 seconds flat. Cataloging, assessing, looking for the trap, because there was always a trap. "Who are you?" Her voice was steady. Steadier than it should have been for a woman who'd just spent 20 minutes locked in a bathroom while her ex-husband destroyed her home. "Someone who got your daughter's messages." Marcus kept his hands visible, non-threatening. "My name is Marcus. I'm here to help." Rachel's eyes flicked to his jacket, expensive and tailored, then to his shoes, Italian leather, then back to his face. "You're not a cop." "No." "Then what are you?" Marcus hesitated. The truth would send her running. A lie felt wrong. "Someone who doesn't like men who hurt women and children." Rachel didn't move. Behind her, the bathroom was small and outdated. Cracked linoleum, fluorescent light buzzing overhead, a shower curtain covered in cartoon fish. The little girl peeked around her mother's hip, wide brown eyes fixed on Marcus's face. She had her mother's dark hair, cut short in a choppy style like Rachel had done it herself with kitchen scissors. In her small hands, she clutched a phone with a pink glitter case. Emma, the one who'd sent the messages. Marcus crouched down, slow and deliberate, putting himself at eye level with the child. "You did the right thing, texting for help. That was very brave." Emma didn't respond, didn't even blink, just stared. "She doesn't talk," Rachel said quietly. "Hasn't spoken in 8 months. Not since—" She stopped, jaw tightening. "Not since her father decided visitation meant using us as punching bags." Marcus looked at the bruise on Emma's arm, visible now in the harsh bathroom light. Finger-shaped. Recent. "He did that tonight?" 3 days ago. I documented it. Took photos. Filed a report." Rachel's laugh was bitter and sharp. "You know what the responding officer said? Looks like she bruises easy. Kids fall all the time. Turns out Derek's buddies at the precinct take care of their own." Marcus stood, keeping his movements measured. "Pack a bag. You and Emma. Essentials only. We're leaving." "Leaving?" Rachel's hand tightened on the doorframe. "To go where?" "Somewhere safe. Somewhere he won't find you." "And why would you do that?" The question was a challenge, edged with exhaustion and suspicion. "What do you want?" Marcus met her eyes. "I want you and your daughter to survive the night." "That's all?" They stared at each other for a long moment. Marcus could see Rachel's mind working, weighing risks against options, measuring the danger of staying against the danger of leaving with a stranger. In the end, it wasn't trust that made her decide. It was the blood on her sleeve and the silent child at her side. 10 minutes, she said. It took 8. Rachel moved through the destroyed apartment with mechanical efficiency, stepping over broken glass, grabbing clothes from a bedroom closet, toiletries from under the bathroom sink, Emma's worn teddy bear from where it had fallen near the overturned couch. She packed everything into a single duffel bag. Movements quick and practiced like this wasn't the first time. She'd had to leave everything behind in a hurry. Emma followed her mother through every room, never more than 2 feet away, phone clutched in both hands. Marcus waited by the door, listening to the building around them. Somewhere above, a couple argued in Spanish. Below, a television played too loud. Normal sounds. No sirens, no footsteps on the stairs. Yet, Rachel emerged from the bedroom with the bag over her shoulder and Emma's hand in hers. She'd changed into jeans and a clean t-shirt, pulled her hair down so it fell around her face. Without the work uniform, she looked younger. 28, going on 50. "Ready?" Marcus asked. Rachel glanced back at the apartment one last time, at the broken furniture, the shattered frames, the life she'd tried to build for her daughter in this place. Then she looked at Emma, at the child who hadn't spoken in 8 months, and nodded. "Yeah, let's go." The drive to Lincoln Park took 35 minutes. Rachel sat in the passenger seat with Emma on her lap despite the seatbelt law, arms wrapped around the little girl like she expected someone to try to take her. She didn't ask questions, didn't make small talk, just watched the city slide past through the bulletproof window, neon signs and dark storefronts, and the occasional flash of Lake Michigan between buildings. Emma fell asleep 15 minutes in, head resting against her mother's chest, one small fist still clutching the phone. Marcus glanced at them in the rearview mirror. Rachel was stroking Emma's hair with absent automatic movements, her face turned toward the window. The passing streetlights painted her profile in alternating shadow and gold. "He'll come looking," Rachel said quietly. Not a question. "Yes." "And when he does?" Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. "He won't find you." Rachel turned to look at him then, really look at him, and Marcus wondered what she saw. A savior? A threat? Something in between? "I've heard that before," she said, "from the social worker when I left him the first time, from the shelter coordinator, from the lawyer who said the restraining order would protect us." Her voice was flat, drained of hope. "They all said we'd be safe. They were all wrong." Marcus didn't have an answer for that, because she was right. The system had failed her, would keep failing her. That was the truth neither of them wanted to say out loud. The safe house was in a quiet neighborhood where the houses had gates and the streets had private security. It was a 3-bedroom colonial that the Lombardi family kept for witnesses who needed to disappear, business associates who needed to lay low, problems that required temporary solutions. Marcus pulled into the driveway, killed the engine. "This is it." Rachel stared at the house through the window. Manicured lawn, porch light casting a warm glow, windows with actual curtains instead of bed sheets tacked up with thumbtacks. "What is this place?" "Somewhere you can rest." Marcus got out, came around to open her door. "It's secure, monitored. No one comes here without my permission." Rachel didn't move. Emma stirred in her arms, made a small sound but didn't wake. "What do you do, Marcus?" Rachel's voice was quiet but steady. "What kind of man has a house like this just sitting empty, waiting for people who need to hide?" Marcus held her gaze. "The kind of man you don't want to know too much about." Something flickered across Rachel's face. Fear, maybe, or resignation. But she got out of the car, adjusted Emma's weight in her arms, and followed Marcus up the porch steps. Inside, the house was cool and silent, central air humming softly, hardwood floors, furniture that looked expensive but impersonal, like a hotel suite. Marcus flipped on lights as he walked, leading Rachel down a hallway to the second bedroom. "You and Emma can take this room," he said, pushing open the door. Queen bed with fresh linens, dresser, window overlooking the backyard. Bathrooms through. There. Kitchen's stocked. If you need anything... "Where will you be?" Rachel interrupted. Marcus gestured toward the front of the house. "Master bedroom, down the hall." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "You're staying here?" "Someone needs to." "Why you?" Because Emma's messages had punched through 20 years of scar tissue. Because he'd failed to save Sophia, and maybe, just maybe, this was the universe giving him a chance to fail less spectacularly this time. Because he'd made a promise to a terrified child at 11:47 p.m., and Marcus Delgado didn't break promises. But he didn't say any of that, just because I said I would. Rachel studied him for a long moment, then carried Emma to the bed and laid her down gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. The little girl curled onto her side, still clutching the phone, teddy bear tucked under her chin. Rachel pulled the blanket up, smoothed it across Emma's small shoulders. When she straightened, her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "Thank you." Marcus nodded. "Get some sleep. We'll talk in the morning." He turned to leave. "Marcus?" He stopped, looked back. Rachel stood beside the bed, one hand resting on Emma's sleeping form, backlit by the bedside lamp. "If this is a trap, if you're like him, I'll find a way to make you regret it." It wasn't a threat. It was a fact. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. "If I was like him, you'd already know." He closed the door behind him and stood in the hallway, listening to the house settle around him. Somewhere in the master bedroom down the hall, his phone buzzed. Work. The shipment. Vincent wanting updates. The life he'd walked away from 3 hours ago to answer a text from a stranger. Marcus pulled out his phone, saw Vincent's name on the screen, and silenced it. Tomorrow. He'd deal with tomorrow. Tonight, he was going to make sure a woman and her daughter slept without fear for the first time in 8 months. It wasn't redemption, but maybe it was a start. Rachel woke to silence. Not the silence of holding your breath waiting for footsteps in the hall. Not the silence of hiding in a bathroom with your hand over your daughter's mouth. Real silence. The kind that came from thick walls and rooms where violence had never lived. She opened her eyes to unfamiliar ceiling, unfamiliar light filtering through unfamiliar curtains. For 3 seconds, panic seized her throat. Where was Emma? Where were they? What had happened? And then she turned her head and saw her daughter sleeping beside her, small chest rising and falling in the peaceful rhythm of a child who felt safe. Rachel's breath shuddered out. She was still wearing yesterday's clothes. The bedside clock read 9:47 a.m. They'd slept for 9 hours straight. When was the last time that had happened? The smell of coffee drifted under the door. Rachel sat up carefully, trying not to wake Emma, and padded barefoot across the carpeted floor. She cracked the bedroom door open, peered into the hallway. Empty. Quiet. She followed the coffee smell to the kitchen. Marcus stood at the counter with his back to her, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He'd changed clothes. Dark jeans, black t-shirt that showed the defined muscles of his shoulders and arms. No jacket. No gun visible. But Rachel knew it was there somewhere. Men like Marcus were never unarmed. He turned when her bare feet touched the tile floor, and for half a second, something unguarded crossed his face. Surprise, maybe. Or vulnerability. Then it was gone, locked away behind the controlled expression she was beginning to recognize as his default. "Morning," he said. "Coffee?" Rachel nodded, not trusting her voice yet. Marcus slid one of the mugs across the counter. She caught it, wrapped both hands around the ceramic warmth. The coffee was black, strong, perfect. "Emma still sleeping?" Marcus asked. "Yeah." Rachel took a sip, let the heat burn down her throat. She doesn't usually sleep past 7. Even when she stopped. Even when Derek kept us up all night. Even when I let her stay home from school because the bruises were too visible. Even when. Marcus didn't push. Just leaned against the counter, his own mug cradled in one large hand, and waited. "What happens now?" Rachel asked finally. "Now you figure out what you need. Then we make a plan." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Rachel studied him over the rim of her mug. In daylight, she could see details she'd missed last night. The scar through, his left eyebrow. the faint lines around his eyes that suggested he was older than she'd first thought. Late 30s, maybe. The controlled stillness in the way he held himself, like a weapon at rest. "Why are you doing this?" The question came out sharper than she intended. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, "Because someone should have done it for my sister." The words dropped into the kitchen like stones into still water. Rachel waited, but Marcus didn't elaborate. Just took another sip of coffee, eyes fixed on something Rachel couldn't see. The silence stretched until a small sound broke it. Bare feet on hardwood. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, teddy bear clutched to her chest, hair sticking up in sleep-wild tangles. Her eyes found Rachel first, then slid to Marcus. For 3 heartbeats, no one moved. Then Emma walked across the kitchen, stopped 2 feet from Marcus, and held up her phone. The screen showed a message typed in the Notes app. "Thank you for saving us." Marcus's face did something complicated. He crouched down, bringing himself to Emma's eye level, and Rachel's heart seized because this man, this dangerous, controlled man, suddenly looked completely lost. "You're welcome, pequeña," he said softly. Emma tilted her head, studying him. Then she typed again. "Are you a good guy or a bad guy?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Rachel held her breath. Marcus's jaw worked for a second. "I'm trying to be a good guy," he said finally. "For you." Emma considered this. Typed. "Okay." Then she walked past him to Rachel, climbed onto the nearest chair, and set her teddy bear on the table like the conversation was over and breakfast should begin. Rachel exhaled. Marcus stood, ran a hand through his dark hair, and turned back to the coffee maker without a word. The days developed a rhythm. Marcus left early, 7 a.m. before Emma woke, and returned late, often after Rachel had put Emma to bed. He never said where he went, and Rachel never asked. She understood implicitly that his world and this house existed in separate spaces, and crossing that boundary meant seeing things she didn't want to see. During the day, Rachel and Emma had the house to themselves. Rachel cooked meals from the fully stocked kitchen, did laundry in the state-of-the-art washer, let Emma watch cartoons on the massive TV in the living room. It felt surreal, like playing house in someone else's life. On the 3rd day, Rachel found the first note. It was, slipped under Marcus's bedroom door. A piece of paper torn from Emma's coloring book, covered in crayon drawings. A stick figure with black hair and a big smile. A smaller stick figure holding the tall one's hand. At the bottom, in Emma's careful 5-year-old handwriting, "You are good." Rachel stared at the note for a long time. Then she carefully pushed it back under Marcus's door and walked away. The notes continued, one every morning. Sometimes drawings, sometimes words. "Thank you. You are nice. I am not scared." Marcus never mentioned them, but Rachel noticed he started coming home earlier. 8 p.m. instead of midnight, then 7 p.m., then 6:30. On the 8th night, he arrived home to find Rachel attempting to cook dinner, pasta with jarred sauce, nothing fancy, but Emma's favorite. Rachel heard the front door open, heard Marcus's footsteps in the hall, and tensed without meaning to. Old habits. Marcus appeared in the kitchen doorway. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his, shirt sleeves. He looked tired, the kind of tired that went bone deep. "You didn't have to cook," he said. "I know." Rachel stirred the sauce, not looking at him. "But Emma wanted pasta and I wanted to..." She stopped. Wanted to what? Feel useful? Feel normal? Feel like she wasn't just a charity case hiding in a stranger's house? "It smells good," Marcus said quietly. Rachel glanced at him. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Something careful, almost hopeful. Stay for dinner, she heard herself say. Marcus hesitated. I don't want to intrude. You live here? Rachel turned off the stove, pulled plates from the cabinet. And Emma made you a seat. She gestured to the dining table where Emma had set out 3 plates in a careful triangle, 3 forks, 3 napkins folded into wonky shapes. In the center, she'd placed a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands. Marcus stared at the table for a long moment. Then he nodded, once, and started to roll down his sleeves. You can leave them, Rachel said. We're not formal here. So Marcus sat at the dining table in his expensive shirt with rolled sleeves, and Rachel served pasta onto mismatched plates, and Emma climbed into the chair between them without being asked. They ate in near silence. Emma focused intently on twirling spaghetti around her fork. Rachel snuck glances at Marcus, trying to reconcile the man who'd beaten Derek unconscious with the man carefully cutting his pasta into smaller bites, who asked Emma, through typing on her phone, if she liked the sauce, who laughed quietly when she gave him an enthusiastic thumbs up. This is nice, Marcus said suddenly. Rachel looked up. He wasn't looking at her. His eyes were on Emma, but his voice carried something fragile. Yeah, Rachel agreed softly. It is. Emma set down her fork and typed, This is the best dinner ever. And maybe it was the exhaustion, or the surreal domesticity of the moment, or the fact that for the first time in 8 months her daughter looked happy. But Rachel felt tears burn hot behind her eyes. Marcus's gaze shifted to her. Their eyes met across the table, across the space between them that was part gratitude, part fear, part something neither of them had words for yet. Thank you, Rachel whispered. Marcus's throat worked. You don't have to. I do, Rachel's voice cracked. You gave us this moment, this peace, even if it's temporary, even if it can't last. You gave us this. Emma looked between them, then typed, Don't cry, Mommy. We're safe now. Rachel pressed her fingers to her lips, nodded. Across the table, Marcus's hands clenched into fists on either side of his plate. And Rachel saw it then. The fracture in his armor, the place where something old and wounded was trying to break through. She wanted to ask about his sister, about the loss that had made him drive across Chicago at midnight for a stranger's text. But some things were too raw to touch, yet. So instead, she just smiled at Emma, wiped her eyes, and said, You're right, baby. We are. And for tonight, that was enough. The note appeared on Marcus's pillow on the 14th morning. He found it when he returned from his run, 6 miles through Lincoln Park, trying to outpace thoughts that followed him like shadows. The house was silent. Rachel and Emma still sleeping. Marcus had showered in the hall bathroom to avoid waking them, changed into fresh clothes, and walked into his bedroom to find the paper waiting. It was smaller than the others. A single torn corner from a coloring book, the edges jagged like Emma had ripped it in a hurry. 3 words in purple crayon, letters shaky but deliberate. Don't be afraid. Marcus stood frozen, water from his still damp hair dripping onto his collar. His throat closed. His hands shook. Don't be afraid. The same words Sophia had whispered to him 20 years ago, in their father's house, in the dark. The same words she'd said, while holding his hand through the worst of it, before she couldn't say anything anymore. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, note clutched in his fist, and for the first time in 2 decades, he let himself remember. Their father had been a drinker, not the functional kind who held down a job and saved the worst for weekends, the kind whose rage was as reliable as sunrise. Their mother had left when Marcus was 8 and Sophia was 5, just disappeared one morning, left a note on the kitchen table that said she was sorry, but she couldn't do it anymore. After that, it was just the 3 of them in that house in Pilsen. And Marcus tried. God, he tried. Took every beating meant for Sophia. Pulled their father's attention away from her whenever he could. Failed more often than he succeeded. Sophia never cried. That was the worst part. She'd just look at Marcus with those big dark eyes and whisper, "It's okay. Don't be afraid. We're gonna be okay." Until the night she wasn't. Marcus had been 15. Sophia, 12. Their father came home drunk and angry about something. Marcus never knew what. It didn't matter. The rage needed no reason. He went after Sophia. Marcus tried to stop him. Got thrown into the cabinet, skull cracking against the corner, world going dark. When he came to, Sophia was on the floor. Not breathing. Their father was gone. Marcus called 911, held his sister's hand, begged her to wake up. She didn't. The paramedics said she'd been dead before they arrived. Internal bleeding. The police arrested their father 3 days later. Found him passed out in a motel 2 towns over. He got 15 years, served 8. Marcus went into foster care, bounced between 3 homes in 2 years. At 17, he ran. Ended up in Chicago. Found the Lombardis. Found a place where violence had rules, structure, purpose. Found a way to make sure he was never weak again. But he hadn't saved Sophia. And that failure lived in his chest like a second heart, beating shame and regret with every pulse. A knock on the bedroom door pulled Marcus back to the present. He shoved the note into his pocket, wiped his face roughly. "Yeah?" The door opened. Rachel stood in the hallway, already dressed. Jeans, a borrowed sweater Marcus had never seen her wear before. Her hair was down, falling around her face in soft waves. She looked rested, almost peaceful. Then she saw his expression, and the peace cracked. "What happened?" she asked, stepping inside without asking permission. "Nothing." "Bullshit." Rachel closed the door behind her, leaned against it. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus laughed, but it came out broken. "Maybe I have." Rachel crossed the room, sat beside him on the bed, close enough that he could smell her shampoo, something floral and cheap, probably from the drugstore toiletries he'd stocked the bathroom with. She didn't touch him, just sat there, steady and present. "You want to tell me what's going on?" she asked quietly. Marcus pulled the note from his pocket, handed it to her without looking. Rachel unfolded it, read the 3 words, was silent for a long moment. "Emma wrote this," she said. Not a question. "Yeah. And it means something to you." Marcus's jaw clenched. "My sister used to say that, before she died." The words came out flat, clinical, like he was reporting facts for a police statement. Rachel was quiet. Then, "How old were you?" 15. She was 12. "What happened?" And maybe it was the, gentleness in Rachel's voice, or the fact that Emma's note had already broken something open inside him, or the exhaustion of carrying this alone for 20 years. But Marcus told her. All of it. His father. The drinking. The violence. Sophia's death. The guilt that never stopped. The vow he'd made standing over her grave. Never again. Never another child. Never. When he finished, Rachel was crying silently, tears tracking down her cheeks. But she wasn't looking at him with pity. She was looking at him like she finally understood. "That's why you came," she whispered. "When Emma texted, that's why you didn't ignore it." "I thought I could." Marcus stared at his hands. "I'd ignored plenty before, but she kept sending messages, and she sounded like Sophia, that desperation, that fear." His voice cracked. "I couldn't let it happen again." Rachel reached out, hesitated, then placed her hand over his. Her palm was warm and small and steady. "You saved us, Marcus. You know that, right?" "Emma," And I would be... She stopped, couldn't finish. I didn't save Sophia. You were a child yourself. I was old enough. You were 15. Rachel squeezed his hand. You were a kid trying to survive. Her death isn't your fault. Marcus wanted to believe that, had spent 20 years trying to believe that, but the guilt had roots too deep. Emma sees something in you, Rachel said quietly. She trusts you. That doesn't come easy for her. Not anymore. She paused. You know what she typed to me? This morning? Marcus looked at her. Tio Marcus is sad. Can we make him happy? Rachel's voice was soft. She wants to help you the way you helped us. Something in Marcus's chest cracked wider. He pulled his hand away, stood abruptly, walked to the window. Outside, morning sun painted the manicured lawn gold. Normal life. Safe life. The kind of life Sophia never got to have. I'm not a good man, Rachel. His voice was rough. You should know that. What I do, who I work for. I know you're dangerous. Rachel stood, walked to him. I knew that the first night. But you're also the man who reads Emma's notes every morning even though you think I don't notice. You're the man who bought her that stuffed rabbit because her teddy bear was falling apart. You're the man who drives across the city at midnight because a child is scared. Marcus turned to face her. She was close. Too close. He could see the gold flecks in her green eyes, the faint freckles across her nose. That doesn't erase the rest, he said. No, but it matters. Rachel held his gaze. You matter. The space between them felt electric, fragile. Marcus's heart was pounding too hard, too fast. He wanted to step back, wanted to step forward, wanted to... A small sound from the doorway made them both turn. Emma stood there in her pajamas, phone in hand. She looked between Marcus and Rachel, then typed, Are you fighting? No, baby, Rachel said quickly. We're just talking. Emma typed, Tio Marcus looks sad. Marcus crouched down. Emma walked over, stopped directly in front of him. She held up her phone with a new message. I wrote that note because my mommy says when someone is brave for you, you should be brave for them back. Don't be afraid to be happy. Marcus stared at the screen. At this 5-year-old who hadn't spoken in 8 months, but who could gut him with typed words more effectively than any weapon. Thank you, Pequeña, he managed. Emma set down her phone. Then, slowly, carefully, watching, his face for permission, she wrapped her small arms around his neck and hugged him. Marcus froze. When was the last time someone had hugged him like this? With complete trust? With no ulterior motive? His arms came up automatically, folding around her small body, and Emma squeezed tighter. Over her head, Marcus's eyes met Rachel's. She was crying again, one hand pressed to her mouth, watching them with an expression that was tender and heartbroken and hopeful all at once. And Marcus realized, with the force of a gunshot, that he was in serious trouble. Because somewhere between the text at 11:47 p.m. and this moment, these two had stopped being a mission. They'd become something else, something he didn't have a name for yet, something that terrified him more than any enemy ever had. 3 weeks passed like a held breath, fragile, suspended, too good to last. Rachel started sleeping through the night. Emma's notes evolved from crayon drawings to longer typed messages, full of observations about the world that Marcus found himself reading twice, 3 times, memorizing without meaning to. The house stopped feeling like a safe house and started feeling like something dangerously close to a home. Marcus knew it couldn't last. He just didn't expect it to shatter so completely. It was a Tuesday in late August. Marcus returned from work at 7 p.m., carrying takeout from the Thai place Rachel had mentioned liking. He found her in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, face drained of all color. "I understand," she was saying, voice brittle. "Yes, thank you for calling." She ended the call, stood frozen. The phone slipped from her hand, clattered against the tile. Marcus set down the takeout, crossed to her in 3 strides. "What happened?" "That was Derek's lawyer." Rachel's eyes were wide, unfocused. "He's filing for emergency custody. Claims I kidnapped Emma, that I'm an unfit mother. He has a court date scheduled for next week." The bottom dropped out of Vine, Marcus's stomach. "On what grounds?" "Parental alienation, failure to appear at scheduled visitation, and," her voice cracked, "he has documentation that I'm living with a known criminal." The words hung in the air like poison gas. Marcus's mind raced. Known criminal, which meant Derek had done his homework, probably ran Marcus's plates from the night at the apartment, connected him to the Lombardis, found enough to build a case. "Where's Emma?" Marcus asked quietly. "Backyard, playing." Rachel's hands were shaking. "Marcus, if he gets her in court, if a judge sees Derek in his uniform, sees his record, his connections, I'll lose her. I'll lose my daughter." "No." The word came out hard. Final. "That's not going to happen." Rachel laughed, a broken sound. "You can't stop a court order. I can make Derek disappear." The offer was out before Marcus could think better of it. Rachel went still. Then she looked at him. Really looked at him. And he saw the moment she understood what he was offering. "You mean, kill him?" Not a question. "I mean, make sure he never threatens you again." For 3 seconds, Rachel considered it. Marcus watched her weigh the scales, her daughter's safety against a man's life. Watched the war play out across her face. Then she shook her head. "No. Rachel, no." She stepped back, wrapped her arms around herself. "I won't let Emma grow up knowing that the man who saved us is also a murderer. I won't." Her voice broke. "She looks at you like, you're a hero, Marcus. I can't take that from her." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, because she was right. Emma's notes, Emma's hugs, Emma's trust. It was the first pure thing he'd had in 20 years. And if he killed Derek, even to protect them, he'd prove that he was exactly what the world had always said. A monster who solved problems with violence. "Then what do you want me to do?" His voice came out ragged. Rachel's eyes were wet, but steady. "I want you to help me fight him. Legally. I want you to prove that strength doesn't have to mean bloodshed." "I don't know how to do that." "Then learn." Rachel stepped closer, close enough to touch. "Because Emma needs you to be the man she thinks you are, not the man you're afraid you've become." Before Marcus could respond, the back door opened, and Emma appeared, grass stains on her knees, clutching a handful of dandelions. She stopped when she saw their faces. Typed, "Why is Mommy crying?" Rachel wiped her eyes quickly, forced a smile. "Happy tears, baby. Just happy tears." Emma didn't look convinced. She walked to Marcus, held up her phone. "Will you protect us from the bad man?" Marcus crouched down to her level. "Yes," he said. "I promise." Emma studied his face for a long moment, then typed, "Without hurting anyone?" The question gutted him, because this 5-year-old who didn't speak could see right through him, could see the violence he carried like a second skin, and she was asking him to be better. "I'll try," Marcus said honestly. "I'll try, Pequeña." Emma seemed satisfied with that. She handed him the dandelions, weeds really, but she looked at them like they were roses, and walked to Rachel. After Emma went to bed, Marcus made phone calls. First to Vincent Lombardi, to call in every favor he'd earned in 12 years. Vincent listened, grunted, said, You're asking a lot for a woman you've known 3 weeks. I know. She must be special. Marcus didn't answer. Vincent laughed, low and knowing. Fine. I'll make some calls. But Delgado? Don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you belong. The implicit threat was clear. The Lombardis owned him. This was a loan, not a gift. Next, Marcus called the family's lawyer, a man named Chen, who specialized in making problems disappear through legal channels. Chen listened to the situation, asked pointed questions, then said, I'll need documentation. Everything. Her medical records showing injuries, Emma's therapy notes, character witnesses, and we'll need to dismantle Derek Coleman's credibility. He's CPD, Marcus said. That's going to be hard. Not if we have the right ammunition. Chen's voice turned calculating. Give me 48 hours. I'll find something. Chen found it in 36. Marcus's phone rang at 11 p.m. on Thursday night. He was in his bedroom, door closed, trying to review the custody documents Chen had sent over. Down the hall, he could hear Rachel getting Emma ready for bed, the soft murmur of her voice reading a story. Talk, Marcus said into the phone. Derek Coleman has been under IA investigation for 6 months, Chen said without preamble. Excessive force complaints, 3 separate incidents. The department buried it because of his connections, but I have a contact who's willing to provide sealed documentation. Marcus's pulse kicked up. What kind of documentation? Body cam footage, witness statements, medical reports. Chen paused. It's ugly, Marcus. Really ugly. Coleman has a pattern. He targets civilians in domestic situations, uses his badge as a weapon. Can we use it in custody court? We can leak it to his superiors with an anonymous tip. Force IA to act. If he's under formal investigation when the custody hearing happens, the judge will have to take it into account. It was perfect. Clean. No blood. No bodies. Just the law doing what it was supposed to do. Do it, Marcus said. Consider it done. Chen hesitated. Marcus? This is going to cost. Vincent. A lot. You understand that? I understand. Good. Because debts to the Lombardis aren't the kind you can walk away from. Marcus ended the call. Sat in the dark. Knew that he'd just signed away another piece of his freedom. But when he thought about Emma's dandelions, about Rachel's plea to be better, about the possibility of a life where they didn't have to run anymore, it felt worth it. A soft knock on his door. Marcus? Rachel's voice. Come in. She slipped inside, closed the door behind her. Emma's asleep. I heard you on the phone. She paused. Good news or bad news? Good. Marcus told her about IA, about the evidence, about the plan. Watched relief wash over her face like a wave. Oh my God. Rachel pressed her hands to her mouth. This could actually work. It will work. Marcus stood. Derek won't get near Emma. I promise. Rachel crossed the room, stopped a foot away from him. What did this cost you? It doesn't matter. Marcus, it doesn't matter. He repeated, more firmly. What matters is you and Emma are safe. That's all. Rachel looked at him for a long moment. Then she closed the distance, wrapped her arms around him, and held on. Marcus froze for a heartbeat. Then his arms came around her automatically, pulling her closer. She was warm and solid and trembling slightly. Her face pressed against his chest, breath hitching like she was trying not to cry. Thank you, she whispered into his shirt. Thank you for choosing us. Marcus's hands tightened on her back. It wasn't a choice, he said quietly. It stopped being a choice the moment I read Emma's first text. Rachel pulled back just enough to look up at him. Her eyes were wet, her face too close, her lips parted slightly. The air between them felt electric. Marcus knew he should step back, knew this was a line he couldn't cross. But Rachel's hand was on his chest, right over his heart, and she wasn't moving away. "Marcus," she breathed. He kissed her. Or she kissed him. Later, neither of them would remember who moved first. Just that suddenly, her mouth was on his, soft and desperate, and tasting like hope. Marcus cupped her face in his hands, gentle despite the need coursing through him, and Rachel made a small sound that broke him open. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Rachel's fingers were tangled in his shirt. "We shouldn't," Marcus started. "I know." Rachel didn't let go. "This complicates everything." "I know." They stared at each other. Marcus smoothed his thumb across her cheekbone, wiping away a tear. "I'm not a good bet, Rachel. I'm not asking for guarantees." Her voice was steady despite the tears. "I'm just asking for this. For you. For as long as we have." And Marcus, who had spent 20 years building walls, who had promised himself he'd never let anyone in again, felt those walls crumble completely. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." They didn't sleep together that night. Rachel went back to her room, and Marcus lay in his bed staring at the ceiling, his lips still tingling from her kiss. But something had shifted. Some invisible line had been crossed. And come morning, when Marcus walked into the kitchen to find Emma drawing at the table and Rachel making coffee with a soft smile on her face, he knew there was no going back. This was his family now, and he would burn the world down before he let anyone take them from him. The IA investigation moved fast. Chen's anonymous tip hit Derek Coleman's department, like a grenade. Within 72 hours, Derek was suspended pending formal inquiry. Within a week, local news picked up the story. Chicago sergeant under investigation for excessive force. The custody hearing was postponed indefinitely. Rachel cried when Chen called with the update. Emma, watching her mother with worried eyes, typed, "Good tears or sad tears?" "Good, baby. The best tears." But Marcus knew better than to celebrate yet. Men like Derek didn't go quietly. He was right. The call came at 2 a.m. on a Friday night. Marcus's phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling him from shallow sleep. Unknown number. He answered anyway. "You think you're smart, Delgado?" Derek's voice was slurred, drunk and vicious. "You think you can take my family and hide behind lawyers?" Marcus sat up, every muscle tensing. "You're drunk. Hang up before you make this worse." "Worse?" Derek laughed, sharp and ugly. "I've got nothing left to lose. They suspended me. My lawyer quit. My captain won't. Return my calls. Because of you." "Because of you," Marcus corrected coldly. "You beat your wife. You terrorized your daughter. The investigation just made it public." "She's mine." Derek's voice rose to a shout. "Emma is my daughter. Rachel is my wife. Ex-wife. And you lost the right to call Emma yours the moment you put your hands on her." There was breathing on the other end. Heavy. Ragged. "You don't know who you're messing with. I have friends, connections. I will find her, Delgado. I will take my daughter back. And when I do, I'm going to make Rachel regret the day she ever left me." The line went dead. Marcus was already moving. He pulled on jeans, grabbed his gun from the locked drawer, and went to check the security system. All cameras online. All doors locked. No movement outside. But his instincts were screaming. He went to Rachel's room, knocked softly. No answer. He opened the door, found her asleep with Emma curled against her side. Both peaceful. Both safe. For now. Marcus pulled out his phone, texted Chen. "Need 24/7 security on the house. Now." The response came in seconds. Done. Team arrives in 20 minutes. Marcus stood in the doorway watching Rachel and Emma sleep, adrenaline still singing through his veins. Derek's threat played on loop in his head. I will find her. Every instinct Marcus had screamed to end this the old way. One bullet. Problem solved. Derek would disappear into Lake Michigan, and no one would ask questions. But Emma's voice echoed, louder. Without hurting anyone? Marcus closed his eyes, took a breath, made a choice. He couldn't kill Derek, but he could make sure Derek never got within 100 yards of Rachel and Emma again. A morning came too fast. Marcus had spent the night on the couch, gun within reach, watching the security feeds. The protection team arrived at 2:17 a.m. 2 men Marcus had worked with before, professionals who knew how to be invisible. Rachel found him at 7 a.m., still on the couch, still wired. You didn't sleep, she said quietly. Derek called. The color drained from her face. What did he say? Marcus told her. Watched her hands start shaking. Watched fear crawl back into her eyes. The same fear he'd seen that first night in the apartment. He's drunk and desperate, Marcus said. He won't get near you. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Marcus stood, took her hands in his. I have security watching the house. Chen's filing for a restraining order with teeth, and Derek is being watched by IA. If he so much as drives past this block, they'll know. Rachel looked at their joined hands. And if that's not enough? If he finds a way? Marcus's jaw tightened. Then I'll do what needs to be done. Marcus, no. His voice was hard. I promised Emma I'd try the legal way, and I am. But if Derek shows up here, if he tries to take you, if he puts you in danger... He stopped, couldn't finish. Rachel cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. I'm not asking you to be a martyr. If he comes here, you do what you have to do to protect Emma. I understand that. You said you didn't want Emma seeing me as a murderer. I don't want her seeing you die either. Rachel's voice cracked. You've given us a chance at a life, at safety, at something better. If Derek forces your hand, that's on him, not you. Marcus pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. She smelled like the lavender soap from the bathroom, like home, like every good thing he didn't deserve. I don't want to be that man anymore, he whispered. I don't want to be the monster. You're not. Rachel's arms tightened around him. Monsters don't cry over 5-year-olds' crayon notes. Monsters don't spend their nights on the couch making sure we sleep safely. You're not a monster, Marcus. You're just a man trying to be better. Marcus wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. The crisis came 3 days later. Marcus was at a meeting with Vincent, discussing shipments and territories, when Chen called. We have a problem. Marcus stepped out of Vincent's office into the hallway. Talk. Derek filed a counter motion. He's claiming you kidnapped Rachel and Emma, that you're holding them against their will as part of some extortion scheme against him. Chen's voice was tight. He has a judge willing to issue a welfare check. Police are en route to your safe house. Now. Marcus's blood turned to ice. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less. Marcus was already running. He made it to his car in 30 seconds, peeled out of the parking lot, called Rachel's number. It rang twice, 3 times. She picked up. Marcus? Listen to me very carefully. Marcus weaved through traffic, running red lights. Police are coming to the house. Derek filed a false report. They're going to ask if you're being held against your will. Rachel's breath hitched. What do I do? Tell the truth. Show them Emma. Show them you're safe. But Rachel, he took a breath. If they ask about me, about what I do, you need to distance yourself. Say you didn't know. Say I offered you a place to stay and you took it. Nothing more. Marcus, I'm not going to. Please. The word came out broken. If they connect you to the Lombardis, Derek's lawyer will use it to prove you're an unfit mother. You have to protect Emma. That's all that matters. Silence. Then, okay. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Don't let them in until I arrive. Marcus made it in. 4. He pulled up to the house to find 2 CPD patrol cars already in the driveway, 4 uniformed officers on the porch. Rachel stood in the doorway with Emma behind her, talking to a female officer who was taking notes. Marcus got out of his car, hands visible, non-threatening. One of the officers turned, saw him, and immediately went tense. Marcus Delgado? The officer asked. That's right. We need to ask you some questions. About the woman and child residing in this house. Marcus glanced at Rachel. She gave him a tiny nod. I'm okay. Ask away, Marcus said calmly. The female officer stepped forward. She was young, maybe 26, with sharp eyes and a notepad. Mr. Delgado, we've received a report that you may be holding Rachel Torres and her daughter against their will. Is that true? No. Can I ask what your relationship is to Ms. Torres? Marcus met Rachel's eyes, saw her take a breath. He's my friend, Rachel said before Marcus could answer. He offered me and my daughter a place to stay when we needed help. We're here voluntarily. The officer looked between them, clearly skeptical. And you are? Free to leave whenever I want. Rachel's voice was steady. Officer, my ex-husband is the one who should concern you. He's the one who put bruises on my daughter. He's the one currently under IA investigation for excessive force. This, she gestured at Marcus, at the house, is the safest my daughter has felt in a year. The officer wrote something. Down. Looked at Emma, who was peeking out from behind Rachel's leg. And the child? Can we speak to her? She doesn't talk, Rachel said quietly. She has selective mutism, but you can ask her questions. She'll answer on her phone. The officer crouched down. Hi, sweetie. My name is Officer Barnes. Are you okay? Emma looked at her mother. Rachel nodded. Emma pulled out her phone, typed, I'm okay. Are you here because you want to be? Emma typed, yes. Tio Marcus keeps us safe. Officer. Barnes's expression softened slightly. She stood, looked at Marcus. Mr. Delgado, I'm going to be honest. Your name came up in our system. You have associations. I'm aware. So you understand why this looks suspicious. I understand that a desperate man is using his connections to harass the woman who left him. Marcus's voice was cold. I understand that instead of investigating him, you're here questioning the people he abused, and I understand that if you don't leave now, I'm calling my lawyer and filing a harassment complaint. The officers exchanged glances. The lead officer, an older man with gray temples, sighed. Look, we're just doing our job. The report required us to do a welfare check. As far as I can see, the woman and child are unharmed and here voluntarily. He looked at Rachel. Ma'am, if at any point you feel unsafe or want to leave, you call us. Understood? Rachel nodded. Understood. The officers left. Marcus watched them drive away, then turned to find Rachel trembling on the porch, Emma clutched against her side. He went to them, wrapped both arms around them, held them tight. It's over, he murmured. It's over. But he knew it wasn't. Derek had just shown his hand. And now Marcus had to make a choice. Keep playing by the rules and risk losing everything, or break every rule and make sure Derek could never threaten them again. Emma pulled back, looked up at him and typed, You didn't hurt anyone. Marcus's throat closed. No, Pequeña, I didn't. Good. Emma typed again. That means you're a real hero. And Marcus realized, looking at this child who believed in him with such complete faith, that he wouldn't, become the monster again, even if it killed him. The end came not with violence, but with surrender. 3 days after the police visit, Chen called with news that would change everything. Derek Coleman's IA investigation had uncovered something bigger than excessive force. Evidence of accepting bribes from a known drug operation on the South Side. Federal charges. RICO case. Derek was facing 20 years minimum. He's agreed to a plea deal, Chen said. In exchange for testimony against his suppliers, he'll plead guilty to the domestic violence charges, relinquish all parental rights, and accept a restraining order prohibiting contact with Rachel and Emma for life. Marcus sat in his car outside Lombardi's, phone pressed to his ear, unable to process the words. He's giving up Emma? His lawyer convinced him it was his only play. If he fights the custody battle while facing federal charges, he loses everything anyway. This way, he gets a reduced sentence and stays alive. Stays alive. Because Derek's suppliers wouldn't be happy about his cooperation. The Lombardis had connections to that same operation. One word from Vincent, and Derek would disappear before he ever made it to trial. But Marcus didn't make that call. Because Emma's voice was still in his head. Without hurting anyone? Draw up the papers, Marcus said. I want this done legally, airtight, so he can never come back. Consider it done. Marcus ended the call, sat in silence. Then he drove home, because that's what the house had become, wasn't it? Home. Not a safe house, not a temporary solution. Home. He found Rachel in the kitchen, teaching Emma how to make pancakes. Flour dusted Emma's nose. Rachel's hair was pulled back in a messy bun. They were laughing. Actual laughter. The kind that came from joy, instead of relief. Rachel looked up when Marcus entered, smile fading when she saw his expression. What happened? Marcus told her. Watched her face cycle through disbelief, relief, grief. Because this was what she'd wanted. Freedom from Derek, safety for Emma. But it had still cost something. Emma's father was going to prison. That reality would live with her daughter forever. He's really gone? Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. He's gone. Rachel's knees gave out. Marcus caught her, held her as she shook with silent sobs. Emma, watching her mother cry, looked up at Marcus with worried eyes and typed, "Did we win?" Marcus crouched down to her level. "Yes, Pequeña, you won." "Does that mean we get to stay here? With you?" The question punched the air from Marcus's lungs. He looked at Rachel, still crying in his arms. Looked at Emma with her flour-dusted face and hopeful eyes. Looked at the kitchen where they'd shared dinners for 6 weeks, where notes had been left and trust had been built and something impossible had taken root. "Do you want to stay?" Marcus asked carefully. Emma nodded emphatically. Typed, "This is home now." And Marcus, who had spent 20 years believing he didn't deserve softness or safety or love, felt something break open inside him. "Then stay," he said. "Stay as long as you want." 6 months later. October in Chicago arrived with golden light and crisp air that smelled like smoke and fallen leaves. Marcus stood in the doorway of what had once been his office. The room he'd kept locked for 2 decades. The room that had held nothing but photographs of Sophia and memories too painful to face. Now, the walls were covered in Emma's artwork. Crayon drawings of stick-figure families. Watercolor paintings of houses with hearts over the doors. A construction paper chain that Emma had made with Rachel, each link a different color, hanging from the ceiling like a rainbow. The photos of Sophia were still there, but now they sat on a shelf, alongside photos of Emma, of Rachel, of the 3 of them together. Past and present, grief and joy, existing in the same space. You redecorated. Marcus turned to find Rachel in the doorway, coffee mug in hand, wearing one of his old sweaters that was 3 sizes too big on her. She looked rested. Happy. Hers. Emma insisted, Marcus said. Said the room was too sad. Rachel walked over, studied the drawings. She was right. She looked up at him. You know what today is? Friday. It's the day we've officially lived here longer than anywhere Emma and I stayed before. Rachel's voice was soft. 6 months and 2 days. That's a record for us. Marcus wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his chin on top of her head. And how does it feel? Like home. Rachel laced her fingers through his. Like we finally stopped running. From down the hall came the sound of Emma's laughter, high and clear and real. Because 2 months ago, Emma had started speaking again. Not constantly. Not easily. But in moments when she felt safe, her voice would emerge, quiet and careful, like a bird learning to sing. Mama, Tio Mark, come look. They found Emma in the living room, kneeling on the couch, pointing at the window. Outside, the first snow of the season was falling, fat, lazy flakes that caught the afternoon light. It's snowing. Emma's voice was full of wonder. Marcus and Rachel stood on either side of her, watching the snow blanket the yard. Emma reached for both. Their hands held them tight. Can we build a snowman? She asked, looking up at Marcus. Marcus thought about the last time he'd seen snow like this. 20 years ago, standing at Sophia's grave, watching white cover the ground like a burial shroud. He'd hated snow ever since. Associated it with death and endings. But Emma was looking at him with such pure joy, and Rachel was smiling, and the house was warm and full of light. Yeah, Marcus said, squeezing Emma's hand. We can build a snowman. They bundled up in coats and scarves and went outside. Emma ran ahead, leaving small footprints in the fresh snow, spinning in circles with her arms outstretched. Rachel watched her daughter with tears in her eyes. She's healing, Rachel whispered. Look at her. She's actually healing. Marcus pulled Rachel close, kissed her temple. So are you. So are you, Rachel countered, looking up at him. And maybe she was right, because Marcus could feel the difference in his chest. The place where Sophia's death had lived like a stone for 20 years was still there, still heavy, but somehow lighter. Not gone. Never gone. But bearable. Emma ran back to them, grabbed both their hands. Come on, the snow's perfect. They built a snowman together, lopsided and imperfect, with rocks for eyes and a carrot nose Emma insisted they steal from the kitchen. When it was done, Emma stepped back, studied their work, and smiled. He looks happy, she said. Yeah, Marcus agreed. He does. As the sun set and the temperature dropped, they went back inside. Rachel made hot chocolate. Emma curled up on the couch with her teddy bear and a book. Marcus lit a fire in the fireplace, watched the flames dance, and felt something he hadn't felt in 2 decades. Peace. That night, after Emma went to bed, Marcus found a new note on his pillow. It wasn't from Emma this time. It was from Rachel. The paper was cream-colored, expensive, torn from the journal he'd bought her last month. The handwriting was neat and careful. Marcus, I keep trying to find the words to thank you. For saving us. For choosing us. For becoming the man Emma believes you are, and the man I've fallen in love with. But I think you already know. I think you've known since that first dinner, when Emma made you a place at the table and you sat down like you'd been waiting your whole life for the invitation. So instead of thank you, I'll just say this. You saved us. But we saved you too. And maybe that's what love is. Not one person rescuing another, but two broken people choosing to heal together. I love you. Emma loves you. We're yours, if you want us. Rachel. Marcus read the note 3 times. Then he walked to Rachel's room. Their room now had been for 2 months, though they'd never officially discussed the transition. She was awake, sitting up in bed, waiting. I want you, Marcus said from the doorway. I want this. I want all of it. Rachel's smile was brighter than the moon outside the window. Good, because you're stuck with us now. Marcus crossed the room, kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. Rachel pulled him down onto the bed, wrapped herself around him, and whispered against his mouth, "Welcome home." And for the first time in 20 years, Marcus Delgado believed in second chances. Some people believe that broken things can't be fixed, that trauma leaves scars too deep to heal, that men who've done terrible things can't become good. But those people have never watched a 5-year-old teach a killer how to smile, have never seen a woman who survived hell choose trust over fear, have never witnessed the moment when someone decides that the past doesn't have to dictate the future. Marcus Delgado spent 20 years convinced he was beyond redemption, that Sophia's death was an unpayable debt, that violence was all he'd ever be good for. Then Emma sent a text to the wrong number, and everything changed. Because redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing every single day to be better than yesterday. It's about letting the people who see your darkness also see your light. It's about learning that strength isn't found in fear. It's found in the courage to be vulnerable, to be soft, to be loved. Marcus saved Rachel and Emma, but they saved him too. And maybe that's the real lesson here, that we're all just broken people looking for someone brave enough to love us anyway. That family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose you when you're at your worst and believe in you until you can believe in yourself. Emma still leaves notes sometimes. They're longer now, full of observations about school and friends and the world. But her favorite ones are the simple ones, the ones she leaves on Marcus's pillow on the nights when the past tries to drag him under. You are good. You are loved. You are home. 3 sentences. 10 words. A lifetime of healing. If this story reminded you that even the most broken among us deserve a second chance, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in Marcus's position? What does redemption mean to you? Hit the like button to support more stories about love, healing, and the courage to change. Subscribe to Redemption in the Shadows. We bring you new emotional journeys every single day, each one a testament to the power of hope over despair. Before you go, check out our next video, or explore our playlist for more tales of unlikely families, fierce protection, and the kind of love that saves lives. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing that people can change, that love can heal, and that no one is ever truly beyond saving. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone love you. Good night.